Welcome to the Be Your Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sky Bradshaw, and today we're diving into the powerful theme of revolutionary self-care. In this episode, we'll explore how shifting your perspective on self-care can open new doors for growth and resilience. I'll be sharing insights, tools, and practical guidance to help you integrate self-care as a revolutionary practice in your daily life. In our Skylight segment, I'll be joined by Jed Schwartz, a physical therapist and Jyutsu practitioner who has made a huge impact in my world when it comes to self-care. We will explore how small intentional self-care practices can create profound, lasting transformation in both your personal well-being and your ability to support your community. Let's get started. To prepare us to receive all that we need in this episode, let's invite ourselves to become present in this moment within our body, mind, and energy. Take a moment to invite yourself to take some deep and cleansing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, invite your mind, body, and energy to relax, 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 relax. And as we move into this space of complete relaxation, we open up our energies to the ancestors, loved ones, and friends to come together today to heal and guide us and lift us to the highest version of ourselves in the light of the universe. So we may hear what we need to hear, know what we need to know, connect how we need to connect, and be what we need to be for our highest and best good and the highest and best good of all involved as we open up space to give and receive. Revolutionary self-care, the foundation of a thriving community. We've been conditioned to believe that caring for ourselves is a luxury, something to squeeze into our schedules if there's time left over. But the truth is, self-care isn't indulgence, it's maintenance. It's the steady tending of our mind, body, and spirit, so that we don't just survive, but thrive. Too often we wait until we're depleted before we give ourselves permission to rest. We push through exhaustion, we ignore our needs, and then we wonder why we feel disconnected, drained, and resentful. But what if we reframe self-care not as a reactive measure, but as a revolutionary act of strength? What if we saw it as an essential practice that allows us to show up fully for ourselves and our communities? Revolutionary change doesn't always come through grand, sweeping actions. More often, it's the small, consistent choices we make each day that create lasting transformation. Drinking water, setting boundaries, breathing deeply, moving our bodies with intention. These simple acts send a powerful message to the universe. I am worthy of care. And when we care for ourselves, we expand our capacity to care for others. A thriving community begins with thriving individuals. When we take care of ourselves, we bring more patience, presence, and love into the spaces we inhabit. We listen more deeply, act with greater compassion, and create a ripple effect of healing that touches far beyond us. We're being called to show up in bigger ways and do more. But we can't answer that call if we're running on empty, depleted, and neglecting our own needs. Supporting ourselves is the foundation for being able to support others. So let's redefine self-care. Let's see it not as a luxury, but as an essential foundation for a balanced, empowered life. Let's normalize giving ourselves the same grace and nourishment that we so freely offer to others. Because when we tend to our own energy, we don't just uplift ourselves, We uplift the whole. You're not meant to pour from an empty cup. You are meant to overflow. Let your self-care be your strength. Let it be your revolution.
This episode of Be Your Soul is brought to you by Tarot by Sky, your home away from home for intuitive tarot, energy healing, and spiritual growth. Whether you're seeking clarity through a tarot reading, deep healing with an energy session, or powerful tools to align your energy, Sky Bradshaw offers a range of services designed to support your journey. Looking to deepen your spiritual practice? Sky's classes and courses help you tap into your intuition, understand your energetic boundaries, and manifest with purpose. Plus, with exclusive packages and subscriptions, you can receive ongoing guidance whenever you need it. Step into your power with Tarot by Sky, because it's your future. Visit Tarot by Sky to book a session, explore offerings, and start your journey toward alignment today.
In today's episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by Jed Schwartz, a physical therapist with over 4 decades of experience specializing in pediatric rehabilitation. Jed's journey into energy work began in 1981 when he started studying Jyutsu with Mary Burmeister. Since then, he has dedicated himself to his practice, working with it professionally since 1987. Jed has been an esteemed faculty member at the Mary Burmeister Jyutsu Institute since 1995 and continues to work for Jyutsu Spirit, Mind, and Body Incorporated. He has taught classes all around the world, from North and South America to Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. In addition to his work with Jyutsu, Jed also practices iridology and constellation therapy, offering a holistic approach to healing. He divides his time between New York City and Woodstock, New York, where he lives with his wife, Lois, whom I also adore. Jed also happens to be my first Jyutsu teacher. Today, we're talking about revolutionary self-care. And since Jyutsu is known as the art of getting to know or help myself, I couldn't think of anyone better to speak on this topic with. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your energy and wisdom. I know that your impact in my life was really profound in a very small amount of time, and especially when it came to the concept of self-care and comfort. And I don't know if it impacted you in the same way, but I just remember you continually telling me, like, relax, just relax your body, just be comfortable with what you're doing. And I had such a, rigid stance and like this kind of almost like technical hold on my body. And you just kept reminding me to like relax into it and be comfortable while I was working. And it was really, really profound for me. And I think that a lot of people believe that big changes require grand gestures, but something as simple as that really took me in a new presence within myself, that just small act. And I thought that you would be a perfect person to bring on and to talk about this, self-care as a revolutionary act for the self. And so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that.
Honored to be here for sure.
So what are some small things that you would suggest that people can make as choices, like you suggested to me, that might create lasting impact in their world?
Such a big question.
I know.
The fact that most of us don't pursue a path of self-awareness, and that can have so many different ways that we can look at it. But the root of knowing oneself is the lifetime journey. And most of the time, all of us, we're not paying attention. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying to me and what I'm listening to, I'm just saying what I'm trying to be with all the time. Mm-hmm. So often people who, when they're ill or they're caught up in anything, they're in a constant state of reaction. And the reaction is to the world around them, whether they're uncomfortable. And if they are comfortable, sometimes they're not even aware of the impact that they have on what's around them. So we have to be in a constant state of this presence of being outside and inside till there's no boundary of separation. And that separation is that there's you and there's me. But suddenly now there's the blockage, which is that we're not together. And it's a separation. It's not the oneness of it. When you arrive to that place, you're not doing an interview. You're just where you are in some separate place. And people who are living like that, there are many times they're unknown. You could be walking the street and that person walks past you because they don't try to tell people what they are. And so when we stop reacting to things, then we can really have a presence in life that is transformative, which is what you're talking about. And when I meet people like that, and I've been blessed to meet people who have that kind of, you're with them, they're there with you 100%. And then they're with whoever they are. They're not in thinking, they're listening. They're not, the self conversation that we often have. And then they're just really with somebody. And that's an unusual thing. And because we're not with ourselves. Right. So when you talk about that, when you're relaxed and you're breathing like you did in the beginning here, you're with yourself. And then we're constantly going in and out. And the more that we can be in ourselves, the more that we can hold that space in a group. But if you can't hold it when you're by yourself, that's so much a part of that. And I was just listening to this interview on the New York Times, and the woman who wrote about addiction, and she said that we're so drawn outside ourselves all the time. Very few people can really function without that, and the digital age is causing people to be less and less connected to themselves. So the old ways of sitting and meditating, or being really present in some spiritual practice or inner awareness practice, is really bringing you so that you're wherever you are, you're doing the same thing. And it doesn't matter if I'm interviewing with you, or I'm sitting there, or I'm working on somebody in my practice, or I'm walking down the street, or wherever. It's always the same. But I don't always live like that. I don't know very many people that are fully present. And one of my teachers said, most of us are like a Roman column. There's sides to it. You see one side, and that's the only way you know that person. You know that side. And you go another side, oh, that's how they're like when they're home, or that's how you're like. But what she said is, you want to be a Greek column. There's no sides. So when I meet you, Sky, if I saw you in any other situation, you're the same person. You're not, you have different personas in how you act. And that's a profound state, because you're living that inside. So in terms of the question you asked, I mean, that would be it, for me to be able to have that. And when I hold that space, I'm not trying to change people. I'm not trying to do anything. You're the witness to something that's so beyond anything that we could imagine. And the more you're connected to those things, the more you realize what this world is like, and what it's meant to be, when we can really live that.
One of the energies that I work with is embracing the HOLE in order to create the WHOLE. And I think that's one of the things that you were talking about, like seeing that some moments I'm going to be that totally present person who is like in tune. And then other moments I'm going to fall prey to the distractions of the universe and, all of the busyness and escapism that is, taunting us at all points in time. And I think it's important for us to kind of embrace that aspect that we do. We don't want to have sides, but there is that call to pivot when someone pivots in front of you instead of staying in your wholeness. So what's one simple thing? Like if someone could do one thing to stay that authentic self other than just do it, do you have a practice? Was there a way you got there? Is there a technique that you would be helpful?
I think it's a process. So I don't think there's one thing that I could come up with that I would say. But a very important thing is to notice how you're feeling, and to experience at something in your life, you have to experience a moment of peace to know what peace is. And so, because through my life, I've had moments of, this exaltation, we're feeling it. So I know what I feel like. My stasis is what my being, like my resting spot. I think you have to have that resting spot.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have that feeling, and some people don't because they're in stress constantly, so they have no idea what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So in that place, if I'm with somebody who has no concept, I couldn't even say that to them, I would start like with breathing, because you can't exist without breathing. So you start noticing your breath. You start noticing how far you connect to the breath. And for me, it's about being able to be rooted into the earth, to feel like a tree, so that you're planted in the earth. You feel yourself stable, that no matter what happens, whatever storm happens, the tree will sway with it, it'll go with it, but it's still anchored. And so once you start to notice that the breath can anchor you and you feel yourself solid on the earth, that nothing's going to take you out of that, then you have that opportunity to feel that. And the more you can hold it, then the key is about noticing when you're not. So I can tell when I'm going to react way before I react. I can feel it inside. My insides start to get a little tight. I get a little bit uncomfortable. And in that place, I know I've got to act immediately. And that immediate action is I have to go to whatever practice I might use. That's for anybody. But you have basically a quick moment before you've lost, right? So if someone, and I can be triggered by many things, but the more that I'm aware of it, I'm prepared for that. So if I have a difficulty, let's say I have a client who's very difficult, like they're difficult for me. It's whatever that is. So I know they're coming. I have to be, I got to be really pulled inside. I got to be really grounded so that I'm there present listening to them. And the moment they may catch me, I know that's not my business. I have to be here. If I'm really good, I can go back and say, what was that? What was that moment? And then we all of us have, from my perception, or maybe I just say me, I know there's certain things in my being that when I experience them, they can be a trap for me. False accusations. I got that early on when someone says I did something and I didn't do it, that it would be, and it comes from way, way, way back without me going into that, where it comes from. So I'm really hip to that now. So I know when I'm with somebody who's an accuser, like they like to blame people for everything, I'm prepared for it. They're not trying to get me. They're just who they are. And when I'm aware of that, I'm living in my integrity and I'm happy. And when I'm really in that place, I don't mind being with them instead of avoiding them. And so, that is about being authentic and not being dishonest with yourself. So all of those things get you there, and you can get it from so many places, but it's hard to be free in isolation.
Right.
So that's why, we have to have people around us.
I think in part, there is work that we do within ourselves, but I think a great deal of our work is done in community and seeing those mirror reflections, or recognizing, well, which person do I acclimate to and which person do I stand away from? And, without those lessons, we would not understand ourselves, because we are part of that enter in. We are all those things. So the thing that makes me feel uncomfortable is where the work is, they would say. But I think it also is just because we're all doing work on us all while we're doing those things. And so, that's the purpose of the podcast. When the one is strengthened, the sum is strengthened. And so we think of, like, if I'm doing my work, then that uplifts that greater energy that gives other people the ability to rise as well. And that's really what I think is the beauty in that. There's a Haitian saying that says, do not anger at the donkey for not being a horse. And so if we look at everyone for how they show up and who they are, and honor that without judgment, then it gives us space to do the same for ourselves and know good days, bad days, they happen.
So it's a beautiful saying. I was thinking just before that, that I think Byron Katie says this, people are judging machines. Mm. Like, and I catch myself in judgment. And it's so unconscious how you do that, Mm-hmm. And I was at a workshop this weekend, and I was coming in there so present. And then I kept noticing, wow, man, I just got caught in like judgments. You see somebody and you go, oh, that's probably somebody who's blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you meet them and you go, oh my God, that was like completely way off. And I just missed a great opportunity by going into that, going beyond the judgment that would keep you separated. So, yeah, it's constant work. And the cool part is when you get it and you don't go at yourself. You just say, wow, that is great. I'm going to be better. I caught it and it's catching it. So that's what balance is. Balance in our physical body is a constant state of catching yourself. It's not what we think it is. It's always adjustment. You're constantly adjusting. And they become micro until there's such a fine adjustment that it's hardly noticeable by anybody. But we're always going to be adjusting. At least right. I haven't got to the place where I haven't. So
we're humans still, no matter how spiritual we become, it's the and we're, we incarnated as a human to learn human lessons. So my papa would say, like, the minute you stop asking questions, you're in the ground. So it's that we're always going to be learning something at some, in the stages that we're in. And it's the calibrations, like you're saying.
Your dad sounds like a wonderful person.
Oh, that's my spiritual papa. My spiritual papa said that.
Papa. So
yes. I love the idea of extended family, not just born family, but the people that maybe your soul has a deeper connection with that didn't come in physical form, but comes in soul form. I think that's important to honor.
Absolutely.
For sure.
100%.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything else about like self-care as a revolutionary act? I know Jin Jyutsu has changed my world in such great ways, and it is the art of knowing the self. And so are there any other nuggets you want to give us while we're here?
You can go into that field for sure. I was somewhere this weekend and someone was teaching this process, and so they said something, and I said, "That's great. Can you do that for self-care?" No, you cannot do that for self-care. And I went, "Wow, that's so fascinating to have a healing art that isn't oriented to self-care." So we take Western medicine, and unfortunately, it's lost its way in the self-care. And like you're saying, it's a big movement now because people want to be able to have that understanding. So for me, the breath is the energy. It's moving the energy in through the whole system. The subtlety of even noticing where you're feeling tension in your body and being able to connect with that. But some of us, we're in our body and we start waking up to this after quite a period of time. So we've already got stuff in tissue. Mm-hmm. So the Jinshin Jyutsu is simple to be able to help to release that, as you know, because you studied that, from the simplicity of holding your fingers. Each finger represents not only emotion and attitudes, but it represents different quadrants of the body. So even without knowing anything, without having any classes or anything, just slowly holding your fingers one at a time. Or when you're with people and you notice what finger they're holding or whatever, and you start to see that's where their need is, and the body does that automatically. And it's an ingrown awareness. When I'm with babies or I'm working with babies, they're constantly sticking specific fingers in their mouths because they know that they need that. And we're not interpreting it correctly. We think, they're teething, but they're working on soothing themselves, whether it's respiratory, whether it's emotional, digestive, whatever. And if you have an animal, a dog or a cat or a donkey, or horses, they'll nibble on the parts of your body that you need help with, or they'll lick the certain part of you. So we're constantly getting the feedback from nature and to tell us what we need to do. And so we start with the breathing, and you can be holding fingers, like the thumb helps us with help digestion. It helps us to calm our anxiety and stress and worry. So that's a great one for everybody. And that's why when we see babies, we naturally see them sucking their thumbs. And so we try to get their thumb out of their mouth because it supposedly ruins the palate. But it doesn't. It's only because they're trying to harmonize that. And the first thing that a baby has difficulty with when they come into the world is their gut, because they have to stimulate their digestion. That's why babies either hold their thumbs or whether they suck them. So those are like simple things that you could give anybody. And the more you know, the more you could be directed into it.
Right.
And some people have that instinctively and some people don't. So you could keep it as simple as that, and then as we know, there's many, many, many different
right.
things that you could do. So unconsciously we're holding something, how we hold our hands anywhere, or people cross their hands on their body with their fingers in their armpits. And, but I think that's, self-care is different for everybody. Not everybody's drawn to things. So you have to be able to connect to them with what they is. Some people, it's more auditory. They like sound. So you need to have a quieter place. Or some people, it's colors. So you need color and that's the beauty of art, because there's so many different arts that people gravitate to, and that's their thing. And nature. I mean, a lot of people, like I was meeting somebody recently, and they go out in the nature and they hug through with trees and I think that's beautiful. And then sometimes, like especially at COVID, when it was happening, my wife came in. She says, "You haven't been out for 2 weeks. You haven't been outside." And I can sit in and work for a really long time. And I didn't even know that about myself until it started to be pointed out. When I was in college, I worked at a veterinary hospital because I was going to be a vet, and I started the job, and I had to stay overnight. And then I was working there. So I literally started work on Tuesday morning, and I didn't finish till Monday morning. I was there 24/7.
Wow.
And I loved it. I mean, I loved what I did. And I think that's it. If you love where you are, then nothing's bothering you. And, I was with the animals, I was hanging out with them. I was helping them medically. I was doing all these things. And although sleep wasn't fantastic, you just adjusted to it. And I have a temperament that I could do that. And that may not be for everybody, but I think that's part of being happy and content wherever you are.
Yeah.
And that's it's a blessing, rather than I hate so many people just dislike whatever. They don't like their marriage, their partnership, where they work, where they live, all of these things. And that's the root, already in disruption.
Yeah. When I sequence, sometimes I'll sit there for a very long time and don't even, move other than sequencing. And then I'll realize, like, oh my gosh, like 8 hours has gone by. I haven't gotten up from this table. And so I definitely know that like contentedness, that like feeling of bliss, being in that spiritual space and not paying attention to like moving or the things that you might need to do in order to contend the body.
If you go deep enough, there's the great story, the great sage Ramakrishna. When Ramakrishna he was so filled with God that whenever people would ask him, like, tell me about God, and he would say God, and he would just go into this state of samadhi. He would go stiff for hours and hours, and people would just sit there waiting for him, and he was in this state of bliss. And that's the real deal. That's somebody who's really living that. And not everybody wants to aspire to that, but to me, that's an amazing place to hold that constantly. But he lived his life. He was that great, authentic person. Yeah.
So every episode, I ask guests 3 questions.
Oh.
And the first one is
the same ones, or do you make them up?
Yeah, same ones for every guest. Ooh. So the first one is, what do you think it means to be your soul?
To be your soul?
To be your soul.
Well, I would say is what we talked about, is just to not have multidimensional, just to be consistent and to be authentic with where you are. And now I start thinking about it a little bit more. To me, the state of the soul is that which comes from the heaven worlds that embodies the physical. But the soul exists in the invisible realm before it inhabits the physical body. So to be living what the soul is, to be the state of unconditional love. Mm-hmm. Because in that realm, the frequency is in a different place. We can imagine or talk about it whatever we want to, but it's a very high frequency. And that frequency, there is none of this discord of the material world, mm-hmm. of emotionality, of reactionary, and it's love. It's about love and care and service and growth. So we all have that, but we're all not paying attention to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody's so anybody you can think of somebody as looking at them and say, well, that's a horrible person, or they did horrible things. But that's only how we see it. On another state, their soul is perfect and mm-hmm. untouched, because it's just what is the whole concept. Maybe we're going off in a
no, good. This is great.
The whole thing about, a perpetrator and a victim. Mm-hmm. So when we look at it from that, they're two opposite sides, black and white. But when you go deep and deep and deep, go really into it, that everybody's living to the best of their ability. And, mm-hmm. and we are judging it as being wrong or right. And that's very hard for someone when we see stories or we see stuff. But we only see our view of it. We don't see the great movement that has to go mm-hmm. there. And so we could go into that for a long time, but that's not why we're here. But I was thinking, you have the war. You have a war anywhere. Let's say World War II, whatever. So you have these two opposing bodies. So if you have like a German soldier or an American soldier, and they're scared, they're praying to the source, the creator God, mm-hmm. who's answering both of because there's miracle stories when you get past, the good people and the bad people, whoever mm-hmm. writes history. There are soldiers who tell you these miracles that happen from both sides. Mm-hmm. So what is it mean that there is a source for the good people and the bad people? But no, there's no good and bad for that. Right. So you think, wow, the angels are helping everybody in that. And we're just stupid enough not to realize that we have to get into that with them. And to be able to have that perception is so much easier to go through life, especially mm-hmm. especially now. If we talk about now, there's so much turmoil that people come to me with about what's happening in the world, what they see. But if you can keep your space and just walk the walk, we know that throughout all of human history, there's been horrible violence,
right?
Big shifts. And we forget that, but there's an evolution that's happening, and we can't understand it because we're in this time and space. We have to get out of that time and space. Mm-hmm. But when you can hold that, you can say, this is just a movement forward, and it has to go through difficulty.
Yeah.
And if you don't get caught in the difficulty, it's not difficult for you. You just are able to flow with that to the best of your ability, even if, this is your last breath.
I think one of the really beautiful gifts that I received, I don't know if you've read Journey of Souls. He interviews people under hypnosis and asks them what happens in between lifetimes. And I didn't really believe in past lives when I read the book. I was just curious about the concept of it. And then I had a profound experience with my granddaughter was born, and I looked at her and I was like, what a beautiful freedom fighter. And I was like, wait, this is a 5-second-old baby. Like, why are you looking at like a freedom fighter? And so that turned me into the long story long. I read that book. And one of the things that the concept of that book is that everybody makes a soul agreement before they come into incarnation. And so, all of these agreements, I'm going to be this person, I'm going to be that person, I'm going to teach you this lesson, I'm going to learn that lesson. And I had a really, really difficult early life. And one of the freedoms I received from that concept was like, I know who I am sitting here right now is the sum of all of my experiences, good, bad, neutral. And I would not be this person had I not been through all those things. Would I recommend it? 0 out of 10, do not recommend, but it's what got me here. And so that book gave me the freedom of realizing like that soul made that agreement to be that horrible person to me. in my journey. And when you can look at it in that different way and give yourself permission to see it as like not good or bad, but just is, then it really changes how you can be free of the historic experiences of your life. It doesn't mean go walking straight into the wall, but it certainly means like you can release a lot of that heaviness when you have that kind of concept, I think.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many ways that you can articulate that, but that's a beautiful way of doing that. That there's nothing that happens to me, but I'm there, and there's maybe nothing that I have control over to some degree. That's part of our destiny, that we're in this situation, and how can I move forward? And sometimes it's not about us; it's about the other person and how we're doing that. And compassion is the way forward. How do you define compassion if you don't feel it? So, but that is wonderful. And your first question about the soul is, that's the process everybody's going through to get to answer that question that you pose to everybody.
Mm-hmm. So the second question is, what is one self-care practice that you do every day, no matter what?
I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. I don't think there is anything that I do consciously self-care every morning. There are things I do 99.5%, like a lot, but there is nothing that I do all the time.
You're not the first person who said that. And I think that that's really important for people to hear.
Yeah. I mean, even if I can tell you what I do consistently, waking up and being grateful for being alive, or setting my intention for the day, thanking my parents for my life, doing Shin Jyutsu, main central, exhaling, clearing my field, setting it. There are days that I don't. Let's say, I had a very, very busy time and go to sleep, bang, and the alarm went off and I'm going to be late, and I just get up, boom, and I'm out the door, and I'm not thinking about anything. I would say I'm still in life, and I'm trapped in life with time, and time kind of can be the big field that grabs me. Mm-hmm. And I work with that to the best of my ability. But sometimes I'm not that kind of a laid back person. I get up and doesn't matter, because I still have a full-time life and work full-time, even for what to me is work, even if I'm doing a lot of volunteer work or service work or things that people have to help, or, that takes over. If you had latitude in that question, you're setting the person up all the time. I mean,
no, I don't mean to set them up. I know, but the concept, usually I clear my energy field. I'll do my main central. I'll work with my energy centers. I feel the field around me being open and expansive and clear. And I notice if there's something that's stuck in the field, if it's a thought or something's happened that I carried over, then I clear that through the self-care that I use for clearing that. And there's many things to do that. And then I usually get up and, meditate, and I'll sit for as long as time affords me, just to hold that, and then to pray for the world, to pray for others, the people who I work with that I'm sending that out to. And, I do that. And recently, I think for the last year, I've been, I get up and I take a cold shower, as cold as, the water is. And I found that's, I'm doing it for me. It's a great discipline. It's a great discipline because I don't want to do it. Mm. And so there's my body, I can feel my body says, it's too cold. You don't really want to do that. And I go, you don't own me. And I do what my prayer to who I'm thinking about at that moment. And I say, I'm doing this in service for something greater. And so I get in the cold shower. And once I'm in there, after that big shock, I feel the energy field. It's very expansive. It's not contracting. You get warm. It clears you. It just lets it all go. And a friend of mine told me about that. And he had told me, it's funny, without going into names, but he had told me, it's like an old friend for like 40 years ago. And I was working at a children's hospital. He says, if you take a cold shower every day, you won't get sick.
And I was getting sick all the time from the kids that I was working with. And so I went, well, that's great. And so I took like a 1 minute shower, like ice cold shower. And I did it every day for a year. I didn't get sick once. But it was so, I was miserable. I wasn't happy about it.
Right.
So come back, 40 years later, and then, we were talking, and I started doing it, but I do it happily. It's a whole, because I'm not the same person. And it does strengthen your immune system. There is research with that, but it just gives me, like, if I was in India, there's no hot water, other than it's just the water. And so, we've gotten so, I take it easy. I have a pretty easy life. I don't have to go forage for my food. So a warm shower, you just think is what's normal, but it's not. So taking a cold shower has been really great for me. So I have those kind of simple routines in the morning that I do. But an everyday thing, I would say, the most meaningful things is just to be grateful for my life and not to take it for granted, and to be acknowledging that. And honor, and with great humility. I think humility is, if I can wake up with humility and know that I have so many to be grateful for being here. And I've been acknowledging my parents, my mom and my dad, more than ever in my life, because I see what they had to go through. I mean, from my perspective, to raise somebody, to give. So, because I don't have any children, so to be able to give selflessly, and the kids have no concept of that. So I had my own attitude when I all of a sudden woke up to that, to this unconditional love that my parents had to give me life. And now I'm alive. I owe them everything. Now they have personalities, and they had their way that they brought me up. But that had nothing to do with the inception of willing to carry me for 9 months and to support me. And that's all of it. And so as that's cleared away all the debris from blame and stuff, there's a freedom in that. So I have that acknowledgement. And what I know from that is that my parents just represents the deities behind them. It's the whole ancestral field that you talked about in the beginning. It all comes from the past, helping us to move forward and evolve. And that's what we were talking about earlier. The world is going through evolution, and all of life is to move us to the place where we have love and peace, and we're all in brother and sisterhood to one another.
I agree.
It is a profound thing. So, it's a great question. It's a great question for me to think about, what is the always? There is no perfection, right? So.
Right. There's no perfection. And I think it's important for people to realize, like, some people have that attitude of it always, and some people are like not, and so some people like the rigidity of, like, I'm going to do this every day when I wake up, and others not so much. I change mine all the time, and mine is like, right now I'm doing this eye massager thing that you put these little goggles on and it massages your eyes, and it's cool. Like, that's my self-care every day. But I guarantee if you ask me in a month, it's not going to be the same thing.
I see that you change all the time. So.
That's just how I am. It is. Transformation, constant. So the last question is, what does centered and balanced feel like to you?
It felt just like what I just experienced just now. You're just carrying the same movement. It's not big adjustments. There's not big amplitudes. There's a smooth consistency. That's what it would feel like for me.
I love that. So anything else you want to add on what we talked about, or anything you think that people need to hear?
Well, I hope everybody listens to you.
Oh, thank you.
That goes out to so many people, not just this, but all the work you do, because I know you're doing it to help people. You want to bring that out to the world. And I hope people keep looking for someone who inspires them, that they can live different messages to bring them to who they are. There's so many great beings out there, and you want to not be like that person, but you want to go to be beyond that, because everybody is going to let you down if you look at them from a certain perspective. That's what a teacher is. A teacher is the way shower. So I think we all need to be aware of the teacher, even if they're not in their physical body. And when you have that, sometimes that is easier to hold on to with faith, that you have someone to pray to, or someone whose wisdom can help you through these difficult times, because they are there, and they come up, and also not to get caught in yourself, so that you can see the bigger picture of things, which is what we talked about. And for me, I'm grateful for that, because it's about the time. I mean, what you're doing now is for this time where we're in now, and 100 years from now, it's different. But the world's going through so much shakiness, and a lot of people have their feet on something they think is stable, and it's not. Whether it's a monetary system, whether it's, a job, whether it's a belief in a religious, group, or whatever it is, and or your partners or whoever, we have to be able to have that interiorly. And this is pushing us interior. The whole world is pushing us constantly in. And it's easy to get into judgment and criticism and hate. If we can move to that other place, that's been a great thing for me personally, to be aware of that, and to see how extreme people are in terms of how easy it is for people to go from 0 to 1,000 in their conversation about something, whether it's political or whatever. And the world right now is really trying to put people against each other.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing the commonality. And it's really there's so much fear, right? And I have friends, people I know who are very, very vigilant about certain aspects of dislike about a group. And I go, hey, 2 generations, your parents were that same group. And the hatred that you're expressing is the same that they experience. What did you learn from what they went through? And that it keeps getting passed on. So I don't want to get caught in that.
Right.
I don't want to. And so I work hard at that. And when people come to me who have these same things, I can sit with it, because that's what I'm working with too. I don't try to tell them that I know any answers.
If we stay in our neutral state and give ourselves permission to not take it in, not take it personal, not create ownership over it, and just recognize what's meant to be, what's my part in this moment, not in conjunction with that thing or that person or whatever, just like where am I right now? How do I be that right now? Then it takes us out of that. Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. I know you have a class coming up. Do you want to say a shout out or anything?
I do a free meditation every Thursday mornings, which people can sign up for if they want. I do a self-care 30-minute meditation every Wednesday. It's free. It's YouTube through Shin Jyutsu Spirit, Mind, Body, which is the organization I'm a faculty member of. I have classes that I do. It's easier probably just to go to the website if they want to see the classes that I do, and then the other work. And, I have a busy practice, but I try to do as much service as I can so people could check that out, because, classes come, classes go, but we have to be able to learn to help ourselves, like you said. And so those 2 things are for self-care on different levels. And I don't want to sell anything. So
okay.
those are free. But, I for people to know, I charge money for my work, and I have a practice, and I have clients in the city and here where I live in Woodstock. I'm in Woodstock.
I really enjoyed Woodstock when I was there. It's great.
Yeah, you had a great time. Yeah.
I know, it was so good.
Glad that you were here. It was beautiful to meet,
Yeah, it really was. You just have no idea the shifts and changes, or maybe you do, but.
Well, that's what's magical in the class that you were talking about when we first came in, because we come in, we don't know what to expect, or we do expect. And then what happens by the time you're finished is so transformative, as it was for me, because I also went to classes for that with Mary Burmeister. And I know you're on a journey, right? But you're paying attention to it because you feel so different.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. This is a great conversation. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us on this journey of transformation and growth. Your presence in this space is a gift, one that brings warmth, connection, and possibility. By tuning in and embracing your own path of growth, you're not just shifting your own life, You're opening doors for new possibilities that uplift and empower everyone around you. Together, we are weaving a tapestry of collective strength, inviting in healing, understanding, and the beauty of what's possible. We're so grateful for you and the energy you bring to this shared space.
This episode of Be Your Soul is brought to you by Little Energies, a beautiful collection of chakra-aligned tools designed to help children connect with their emotions, energy, and intuition. Created by Sky Bradshaw, Little Energies makes self-awareness fun and accessible through books, journals, and oracle cards that empower kids to understand their own energy in a simple, engaging way. These tools provide a gentle, supportive way to introduce mindfulness, emotional balance, and energetic boundaries to the little ones in your life. With the Little Energies Bundle Pack, kids can explore their inner world with confidence and curiosity. Give the gift of self-awareness and energetic wellness. Visit littleenergies.com to explore the full collection and bring balance to the next generation.
In this segment, I offer tools and guidance that I have found helpful in my practice, and maybe you will too. So let's give ourselves some loving kindness. We often treat self-care as something extra, something to be earned. But what if it was actually the bedrock of our strength? What if self-care was the key to showing up fully, not just for ourselves, but for our communities as well? Today, I want to invite you into a radical shift in how we see self-care. So grab your journal, wherever you are, and let's dive deeper into how self-care can be a revolutionary act that strengthens both you and the world around you. The first step on this journey is about rewriting the self-care story. What does self-care mean to you? Do you see it as an act of necessity or a luxury you can only afford when everything else is done? Take a moment to reflect on the beliefs you've carried about self-care. Were you taught that taking time for yourself is selfish? Do you find yourself putting everyone else's needs first, only to feel drained, disconnected, and overlooked? Look at this old belief without judgment and just notice where it came from and how it feels. Then journal that. Now that we've identified our old way of thinking, it's time to rewrite the story. We want to redefine self-care as something essential, a life-sustaining practice. Think of it this way. If you were headed out on a road trip, you wouldn't wait until you reached your destination to fill up your tank. So why do we treat self-care like it's negotiable? Here's a new, healthier self-care statement to replace your old story. Self-care is how I sustain my energy, honor my needs, and strengthen my ability to serve the world. Now, let's go a little deeper. Take a moment to reflect. How does your energy shift when you prioritize your well-being? What happens in your emotions when you focus on balanced giving and receiving? Take time to journal your thoughts. Then we want to work on shifting our mindset. Remember, energy goes where our attention flows. So if the belief isn't addressed, the habit will be hard to change. What gets in the way of your self-care? Is it guilt, time, a belief that others must come first? Maybe you tell yourself you'll rest when everything is done, but somehow there's always more to do. Or maybe you've been conditioned to equate self-care with indulgence, rather than recognizing it as an essential maintenance for your mind, body, and soul. Write down the biggest obstacle that stops you from prioritizing yourself. Then counter it with a new belief. Instead of, I don't have time, try, I create space for what strengthens me. Instead of, I'll rest when I'm done, try, I deserve to rest so that I can sustain my energy and joy. Instead of, it's selfish to focus on me, try, by taking care of myself, I show up stronger for my loved ones and my community. This is your revolution, one small act of self-care at a time. You don't need permission to care for yourself. You don't need to wait until you've reached your burnout to rest. When you nurture your own well-being, you expand your capacity for joy, presence, and connection. Once we've identified our old ways of thinking and reclaimed a new narrative, it's time to start resetting our daily life choices. Let's make self-care practical and actionable. What are 3 small daily practices that nurture your mind, body, and spirit? Think simple, things you can integrate into your existing routine without feeling like you're adding one more thing to your to-do list. We want these things to feel like brushing your teeth. We just do it every day and don't negotiate with ourselves if we have time or if it's the right thing to do. Maybe it's as simple as drinking a full glass of water before your morning coffee, or taking 5 deep breaths before starting your workday, taking a dance break in the kitchen before you start your dinner, staying in your car an extra few minutes to finish listening to that song, making sure to take 5 minutes outside in nature during your lunch break, giving yourself a few minutes of relaxation before you move on to your new task. Or it could even mean taking time to listen to an exercise from this podcast and creating space to work with the tools shared here. Write these ideas in your journal and choose one to commit to for the next week that you will try to do every day. If you feel resistance, remind yourself, self-care is not a reward. It's the foundation that allows me to show up fully for myself and others. As we conclude today's conversation, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on how you can embrace self-care as the essential practice it truly is. It's not a luxury, nor something to be earned. It's the very foundation of your strength, the key to fully showing up in your life and community. Just as a car needs fuel to reach its destination, we too need to nourish ourselves to continue our journey with energy, presence, and love. The road ahead is long, and we deserve to be equipped for the journey. So choose one small action today to honor your well-being and recognize that every act of self-care is a powerful step toward collective healing. By nurturing yourself, you not only replenish your own spirit, but also create space for others to do the same. Keep showing up for yourself, and together we will forge a thriving, empowered community that uplifts us all. May you be well, may you find peace, may you be whole, and may you feel blessed.
Did this episode inspire you to grow further? Join our Be Your Soul Patreon community, where spiritual connection and self-discovery take center stage. Enjoy early access to new episodes, unedited video interviews, and exclusive bonus content like quarterly 21-day journaling courses. As a patron, you'll also receive PDF guides for each episode's exercises and additional resources to deepen your journey. Start your spiritual adventure with us today at www.beyoursoul.org for everything Be Your Soul.